Films are one of the most influential forms of entertainment. In fact, featured films have been a form of popular entertainment since the 1930s. Movies have shaped our understanding of the world and have changed the way society acts. Gradually over the course of the last 60 years, Canada has developed its own film industry. However, even today, less than 5% of the movies seen by Canadians are made by Canadians.
Since 1992, I have worked as a cultural policy consultant. So, in fact, I do a lot of work for all kinds of people in the film and television business. I have a pretty good background. I used to be on the board of the Ontario Media Development Corporation.
According to Jeff Pivard, Canadian featured films production found its feet only in the early 60s, having been roundhoused time and again by an American movie industry, allowed unimpeded dominion over Dominion screens. Therefore, films in Canada have been viewed theatrically and broadcast to a minimal amount.
When we compare Canadian films to Hollywood films, it is easy to see that Hollywood films control the movie industry, while the Canadian industry hides in its shadows. To prove this, we took to the streets at the University of Ottawa to ask simple questions. Number 1. Name 5 American films.
The Harry Potter series.
Yep.
There's all 4 of them.
One.
Man. The Godfather.
Yeah, The Godfather.
The Departed.
Hey, why did you say
Shawshank
Three.
Redemption. There's a.
We know.
Star Wars, that's got
Oh,
it.
yes. Yeah, Star Wars.
Four, one more.
Lord of the Rings.
Boondock Saints, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings.
Spider-Man, Daddy Daycare, Daddy Day Camp mostly lately.
Number 2. Name 3 Canadian films.
That says it all.
No.
No idea. Okay.
Go with This Movie Is Broken, and Hardcore Logo, and Roadkill, all Bruce McDonald. No, I don't know any Canadian films.
Okay. And
Jésus de Montréal, Un homme et son péché, et
Un jour la nuit, The Sweet Hereafter, and strangely enough, Rambo.
As you can see, Canadians have problems with naming their own country's films.
Hoskins states the U.S. film industry is a competitive industry based on the Hollywood studios. Hollywood films have broad marketing budgets and large distribution networks that make it nearly impossible for Canadians' movies to compete.
First thing to note is to divide up the industry between the English language industry and the French language industry. We don't have a business structure.
Hoskin and et al. Argue that Canadian featured films are affected by broadcasting regulations. In fact, many Canadian featured films are never released theatrically.
But they mostly all agree that the Canadian film industry's budget is the main reason for the industry's lack of success.
Comparing a movie with a total budget for production and marketing of $10 million, pretty hard to compete.
The distribution system, how there's no major houses aside from Alliance in Canada. They don't have any rules nor regulations. There's no such thing as a broadcasting act that applies to the film industry. I am going to talk about, there's just no regulation, no RCTC involvement, no CAMCO involvement. So if there's no regulation, you cannot be asking for Canadian content to be played at the movie theaters. The Canadian features will be kicked out of the movie theater right after 2 weeks.
Paramount, Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox, and Disney are major Hollywood studios. Movies in Hollywood studios are broadcast universally in an attempt to widen the studio's audience. Hollywood stars are a very important part of this process. Their lavish salaries reflect the fact that their names help draw people to particular films. How did it happen that Canada has no feature film industry of its own, when all other countries with pretensions of being developed and many third world countries do?
There is a huge gap. In the years between 2005 and 2010, the Canadian Film Board had a budget of $70 million. That's $14 million a year. And with this budget, just over 50% of it goes to the documentarians. And then the rest is given to independent directors. So there never is a big budget for directors and producers to make big blockbuster movies in Canada. On the other hand, when it comes to budget in Hollywood, the average amount spent on a movie is $100 million. They can afford to do this because with their big budgets, they can make big blockbusters. And big blockbusters pull in lots of revenue. For example, the movie Avatar, released in 2009, had the fourth highest ever budget of $237 million. But the movie's revenues broke records by reaching $3 billion.
Is how do you break into that market when you don't control distribution? We just cannot compete with that Hollywood machine. The movies that have succeeded, in my experience, are the ones that are Canadian. We don't have a big enough market in Canada. That's why government funding is essential, because it's just leveling the playing field for the Canadian producers with the Americans. It's hard to do with the Conservative government. Well, we have a jurisdictional problem in Canada, because we have called provinces and federal government.
Telefilm Canada, the National Film Board, provincial government funding agencies, and tax credit are among many bodies that are funding Canadian films.
It's not about talent. We have talent.
Jim Carrey, Pamela Anderson, Kiefer Sutherland, Seth Rogen, Jay Baruchel, Alicia Cuthbert, Michael J. Fox, Eugene Levy, Mike Myers, Caroline Rhea, Michael Cera, and Kim Cattrall are among many Canadian actors. Many Canadian actors have moved to the United States to further their careers because of the stagnation and small size of the Canadian market.
Two famous Canadian directors are Paul Gross and David Cronenberg. Paul Gross is known for his movies such as Men with Brooms, Passchendaele, and his newest, Gunless. He likes to base all his films around Canadian culture and history. David Cronenberg, on the other hand, bases all his movies, including Existence and Crash, around sci-fi and sexuality. Even though they are very different when it comes to films, they have something in common: their budget. Every time one of them wants to make a movie, they actually have to beg for money from billionaires, or even go to other countries and beg their government. This shouldn't be happening for the Canadian film industry. The Government of Canada should help the arts, including films, and give them a proper budget so that directors and producers can create tomorrow's film blockbusters.
I think we should be investing a lot more money in script development and giving them freedom and saying, there you go, we have confidence in you. You produce some things, and we're going to invest in you.